All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we will take a look at the quant sector. I think I'm going to cover five of them. If I have time, maybe more. But Rigetti, QBTS, QUBT, IONQ, and QSI are going to be at least the five I'd like to cover. And then if time permits, I'll look at a few others. All right. I'm also going to be talking about the NASDAQ. And like I've been echoing in the last few videos, look, the NASDAQ isn't pretty, but at least it's over the lines instead of under the lines, right? And I think that's at least what I'm taking each day as. It's not as confident and as certain as a good bull index market would look, but hey, good things happen over the lines, right? And I'll quickly flash it since I'm saying the words, right? NASDAQ is still over all five moving averages, and it has been for a while, right? It's basically been a string of dojies and red candles the last, what, 2 weeks, give or take, right? But hey, I'll take this weirdness that's over all five, then that's under even one or more. You know what I mean? So you're over the eight, and good things are at least potentially there, right? So with that, I think we saw the quant sector do pretty well. I think easy to say, at least on a couple. Not quite the sector unison that I want to see, right? Normally, I want to see everyone at a double digit day, right? Some higher, some lower. But, if I see green days, I don't want it to just be two of the five, which is kind of what we see, right? We see Rigetti was green, and I think it was QUBT, not QBTS. Yeah, big day right here, right? And you can see coming after the golden line right there, right? Not quite the same not quite the same green days, right? QBTS was red, IONQ was a little bit red, QSI was also this one was green actually. All right, three of the five were green, two of the four were not, right? And to me, that's not quite the sector unison that I'm looking for, but I think the one thing I'm willing to call unison is volume. All right, and Rigetti I think is the perfect view of it. There was a little bit of a volume bump kind of at the end of May, but pretty much most of June, except for today, has been under the white line, under the 50-day line, and struggling. Right, today was the clear outlier. Right, when we look at QBTS, not as loud, but hey, this was actually only the second day over that line in that same little window. Right, basically the 27th is where the last one ended. QUBT, you gotta believe volume was good if you're going to bring a double digit day, right? Volume is king, volume is queen for my ladies watching this. When you add good volume and steady growth and breaking the golden line, oh man, that's a technical smile to my heart, right? What is this? Sometimes typos bring good things. This one was not one. IONQ, look, again, not a green day, kind of a flat day, really, but what I'm seeing is a nice, and really look at the last couple days, it's actually been over it, as opposed to, man, this one didn't even have as much. This one's interesting on the volume side. I'll look at that and talk about that more. And then QSI, like I said, this was the fifth one I wanted to look at. I think same view, right? There was that little pop right here, and then basically dead and below the line, except for today. So I think volume is the one commonality that I'm seeing across this. And really, to me, I think that goes back to NASDAQ's a little funky right now. All right. Again, I'll take funky and over the lines, but funky is funky. And I'm not as, how do I say this? I'm not as tech safe as I would be if this was, back in the day and we're actually like bouncing and taking off and seeing good real candles, not just these strings of dojis, right? And I mean, it was that for a while, right? So I'll take this. And what I think happens is tech goes on a rotation, right? One of the things I've been saying is AI hasn't been doing that well. Quant in a lot of ways hasn't been doing that well. And it feels like today was Quant's turn. Let's see if it'll confirm and continue tomorrow. But there's a little bit of a rotation across tech. They're each kind of taking their turn as NASDAQ kind of figures out if it wants to sustain and confirm or just stay in this little funky pattern. So I think it's all right that volume was the sector commonality. I really wish everyone brought double digit days, but let's see what tomorrow brings. And I think that obviously matters more, right? So before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines. I think there's more up here actually. Oh, there's not. I'll draw some more. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So, hey, really quick, kind of a sentimental thing. Man, tomorrow is going to be my 3-hour 3-year anniversary for chart readers. I can't believe, I'm such an inconsistent flake, and I can't believe I've kept doing this. A lot of the reason is because of all of you. I'm telling you, I love your comments. I love the community we've built. I told you my dad watches all of these, doesn't understand a word I say. He's not even allowed to comment, but you know, I can't believe what we've done in the last 3 years. And man, I in a lot of ways, man, I love you all so much. All right, so let's get into the technicals because that's what you're here for, not my sap. All right, so again, one thing I'm always here for is sector strength, right? I don't care if it's the quant sector, I don't care if it's the whatever sector, right? Farming sectors, whatever. They to me should all be doing the same thing, right? Some are going to be better, some are going to be worse, but again, you should see that harmony across them. I don't necessarily see it on the percentages, right? I normally look at 4 tickers in this, right? RGTI and QUBT bring these monster double digits, right? But, you know, to me, I would expect the other ones to do that. Hey, maybe not double digit, maybe you're going to give me a 7, 8, 9%, you know, maybe just under it, but I would very much expect QBTS to be up, not down, let alone, you know, over 5, 6%, right? I actually would say the same thing for IONQ. To me, these big 4, I feel like they should be moving a little more together. And the fact that it's 50-50 most of the time would bug me a little bit, okay? I think the main reason it doesn't bug me as much is 2 things, and I'm repeating myself a little bit. NASDAQ isn't the prettiest, all right? And what normally would be just showering love and good and bullishness on all of tech, NASDAQ's just it's a little funky. It's a little weird. I don't know what the educated word is, but you get what I'm saying, right? And I think it puts tech on rotation. And sometimes this sector does well, sometimes this one does well. And it goes to the next point. Volume is going to move as tech goes in rotation, right? All this volume wasn't here the last couple weeks. It realistically was probably trading some other stuff, right? All of a sudden the rotation came to here and that's what it does, right? So we're hoping the rotation can stay a bit and it'll let us sustain and gain a little bit more, and it'll let at least the other ones gain double-digit days, let alone these ones confirm and go, right? So to me, volume, and I talked about it in the opening thoughts, that's what was the sector harmony. They all at least got over the 50-day line after what really was a struggle since this 27th of May to get any good volume, all right? That was the commonality right there, all right? I think the other one is basically a dogee. We look at Rigetti, we look at QBTS. Look, again, you know me, I'm not a candle guy, right? So that's actually kind of a dogee in my book, right? You have about even wicks. It's a little bit fatter of a body, but yeah, I would call that loosely a dogee. I'm sure there's like a candle purist like getting so angry as I'm saying these words, but yeah, I'm here more for lines and respecting that. And yeah, that's a dogee in between 2 important lines, and I'll get to that specific technical as well. IONQ, again, I know most won't call that I think that's a dogee to me. You've got wick up, wick down, and basically minimal movement in 7 hours, right? Those are better dogees for sure, even that one yesterday, but I would still throw that in the bucket as well, right? I obviously didn't include QUBT because that's a nice big good green candle, but even QSI, which is kind of the 5th one I was wanting to look at, that's a beautiful textbook dogee, right? And again, with all the dogees, they were basically on, in between, or near really important lines, specifically the last moving averages, right? So We're seeing the dojis across all of them. We're seeing the volume increase across all of them, and we're at least seeing some life and some double digits in half at least, right? So to me, that makes this a must look at tomorrow, right? A must watch is what I wanted to say, but I messed up the words, right? So at this point, if this doji confirms, we're basically at 50% of this big candle right here, right? So if we confirm, I think the bare minimum I would expect tomorrow is 1320. I think it's really, really, oh, look at that. 50% of this candle where I'm clicking is actually what we wicked today, right? If you're looking at today's candle, it's the top of the wick. So I would expect it to retest this 1357 if it continues, right? I can easily see that happening tomorrow. Otherwise, yeah, I like this click because you can see it actually ends up being the top of that. I think we'll basically come in between the two of them and come down to let's even just call it 12 flat. I'm clicking at 1206 right now, all right? So Rigetti, there's a lot, and really look at it, right? I'll delete the line real quick. After this 50% line, which is basically where we ended, it's just green, 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 red, 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 and nothing, nothing, nothing. So there's a real nice path to retest this right there. Again, we're over the golden line still. It's definitely not the all-time high line, right? There is another golden line that I probably should be drawing roughly right there at 18 something, right? But I'm like the NASDAQ, I'm relatively okay with this, right? This is a little funky. It's definitely not over the 8 and the 20 as good as a couple of the other ones are, but hey, it's not that bad, and it makes sense to me that we never lost this because it's hard to break two lines up. It's really hard to lose two lines down. So in a lot of ways, we never even hit it, but that's a technical bounce to me right there, right? Like that's a very, very strong support point, and it makes sense to me. So a little bit funky, kind of matching the NASDAQ. Volume cures everything, right? So give me volume. I would love it to be as high as today or higher, obviously, right? But oof, that's a 50% drop. Not right quite, but you get I'd like 120 million shares. I think that's my bare bone minimum going into tomorrow. Sorry, 120 million divided by a 7-hour day. We need about let's call it 20. I would love 20 million shares an hour. If we can hit 40 million shares by that second hour, I think Rigetti's going to retest that. What do we call it? 1350 something? Yeah, 1360. I think that's going to be the target up. Otherwise, like I said, 12 flat roughly down there. Look, this isn't a bad weekly chart either, right? We're still over all the moving averages. MACD still positive. RSI is at a very healthy number. The problem's just been volume. We haven't done something like that in a really, really long time, actually for the entirety of the year, right? So volume's the missing thing. NASDAQ's a little funky. Let's see how long the rotation stays right here, right? I am grouping all these together because I think a lot of the thoughts are going to be echoed, and I'm just going to give the technicals right here, right? So look, QBTS. Arguably, this has become the #1 ticker of the sector in my eyes. I realize I just started with Rigetti. I think a little bit of that was just like habit, not really intentional. But yeah, QBTS has shown the average volume is basically around 100 million shares, right? That's probably 70, right? Like 70 million shares as your average is wild. And it's been that for a bit now, right? So there's so much volume and so much to like here. I think, oh, that's exactly there. Ah, and that's all-time highs. Okay. Oh man, so the technical line for me to draw is that. What's 50% of you? It's right there, but even that's still too tight. That is the real line. It's the real line because that's basically half of that, and you can kind of see top of that, bottom of that. At that point, I wouldn't draw this line because really it is all about the moving averages. I guess that's what it needs to break. Look, to me, you're going to need to break 1860. Maybe I'd be comfortable using that. Let's call it 18. I'll set an 18 alert. I know that's giving up a lot. I know it is because we're down here at 1650, right? But I would rather throw away the buck and a half to get to 18. I think if you can get to 18, there's a lot of reason for me to believe you're going into all-time highs, all right? I think this one didn't, obviously, I think this, obviously, you think it too. This didn't have as big a volume, increase over the 50-day line, right? So if this can get around, let's even use that same 120 million shares, right? If this can also get about 20 million shares an hour, there you go, right? Obviously, 20 million shares is a fourth of today, give or take. So if you're getting in a seventh of the day, that's significant right there, right? So 120 million would be an amazing volume number. I think that'll be enough to get us to 18. Truth be told, if we just get to 18 tomorrow, I would be okay with that. It'll probably look a little bit like a doji. Yeah, maybe it'll be a good full candle, but nonetheless, give me 18 tomorrow, and then next week let's go from there, right? Real quick on that, next week is a short week. Juneteenth, I do believe is a federal holiday, and the markets are going to be closed. I did not double check that before I recorded. Let me know if that's wrong, but short weeks tend to be a little iffy, but hopefully we can at least set up pretty well here. Again, just like we saw in Rigetti, we are over all the moving averages. I needed to zoom out, and I just realized there is no 200, right? This has not been a stock for 200 weeks. You can see the 100th is actually kind of relatively just started, right? So we still got a lot of weeks to go, I think, before we get that 200 line there. So with that, let's come into the bigger mover. It's QUBT, and a lot of it really has to do with the golden line. All right, I know we covered. I feel like I haven't covered the quant sector in a bit actually, but golden lines are beautiful things. All right, and clearly there were higher candles, and obviously there was places to put the golden line aside from down there, but green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 and just a lot of nothing, nothing. And then I think it also went back to the IPO. Yeah, there was a little bit of an IPO, roughly an IPO peak in 21. That's why I have that vertical line right there, right? But that's an important line, and when you get over important lines, really good things happen, right? And that's basically what we saw. And again, the echoing comment, like I said in the opening thoughts, was there were a lot of doji candles on important lines, right? And I'm just going to show it real quick again. Not QBTS, IONQ. I'm calling that a doji right on those two lines. QSI, that's a doji pretty much on the 8. Yesterday was a doji in between the two, right? Even Rigetti, RGTI, this thing basically ended as a doji right on the line, right? So the common theme has been dojis on important lines. And again, I never say my lines are that important, but when I make it a golden one or a death one, I have a little extra confidence, right? These are just opinions, not financial advice. But yeah, you doji, you go, right? And I think this yesterday, today reminds me a bit of Rigetti. We tried today, we end with the doji, just confirm and let's go, right? And I think it would reattempt it and take it if that happens, just like this did right there, right? So I think this, again, I know right? This has the best volume of any of them, right? Today was clearly the best beat of the 50-day line, and that, I keep drawing it, is a beautiful 3-day, let alone really as you just kind of zoom out and look at the whole thing. That was a real nice increase, and then the increase gets even bigger, right? So good things happen over all the moving averages. This had nicer candles over all the moving averages as well, right? So yeah, this one, at this point, we're just going. Look, I know an 80 is normally where I say the RSI is a little high. I love the divergence on both of them. Green is going up and away on both. Volume, I'm willing to say that RSI might go a little bit higher, right? And, oh, interesting. This is probably the highest of the weekly RSIs. But yeah, at this point, I still think we can keep going, come back, and then go. Like, I could see that being the move here. As long as NASDAQ doesn't do anything silly, this should do well over the golden line. At least this should very much establish this as a support instead of a resistance, and then go from there. So yeah, I'm loving this thing as long as we're over 1750. That's an easy thing to say right there. My wife just got home. Hold on, let me close my door. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. Let's look at IONQ. We're coming up on 20 minutes. Again, same kind of thoughts as the other one, right? I'm not a candle guy, right? I'm a break a line, lose a line guy. So to me, this is a doji on lines. Yesterday, very much was a doji on lines. The lines being the 8 and the 20. We need to confirm if we're gonna go or not, right? So. Technically that's a death cross. You don't want a little one to go below a big one. You want the little one to go above the big one like we see right here, right? So I don't really care about that death cross. To me, these are just two lines really tight together, right? So let's confirm. Let me know we're going or just don't and that's probably going to be the best line. You can clearly see we struggled a little bit with it, but I think if you can break 4120, 4120 is probably what's going to say I'm ready to go up to that 45 line. Clearly bad things will happen if you lose 39. I'm actually even willing to take that to right there. Yeah. 38.75, 38.80, I think is a good number. If you lose that, there's a real fear of going down to 33. I like the volume here. I actually do. That's a good steady increase. Hopefully sector strength and NASDAQ holds and maybe some of the volume will come onto this one, right? But for the most part, again, just kind of echoing the rest, it's still over the line. So there's a lot, of good there. And hey, that's a healthy weekly, right? I think we are setting up for a decent next week. Again, it's a short week next week, so we'll see how that plays out. But there are worst places to be, to say the least. All right, and then oh wow, two hiccups. Excuse me. IONQ, literally exact same words, right? Back to back dojis. We're over the lines, but I still need a little bit more to believe. That's the safest line, but I feel like I think 180 is arguable. Really, I think 185 is probably the safer line. In a lot of ways, it might just be worth waiting for 192 to break and then tackle that run to 3 something, right? So a little tight right here. It's about 10%. I'm kind of doing rough math in my head, right? But you're going to give away the next 20-cent move to hopefully get a lot more above that, right? So in some ways, I think I might wait. But yeah, if volume comes, if we can get a little closer to like 20 million shares here, let's call it 21 million for easy math. If we can get about 3 million shares an hour, oh man, volume can do good things here, all right? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.